When it comes to the NFL, part of its allure is the unpredictable nature of the game. Each week we all sit on the edge of our seats, sweating out every play, questioning each call, trying to will our teams to a victory. Now, with sports betting available to more fans, the excitement and the interest in the outcome of every game is even more intense. It's not enough to win the game. Now we need our team to cover the point spread. Some fans blindly back their favorite team, while others look for value in the point spread to decide who to wager on. So which teams have had the best seasons against the spread in NFL history? Well, here are the 8 greatest against the spread seasons and the teams that defied the odds. The 2015 Minnesota Vikings had an amazing year, ending the regular season 13-3 against the spread and 11-5 straight up, winning the NFC North Division. This was a 4-game improvement from the 7-9 straight up record the Vikings had the previous season. Minnesota would play their home games at the University of Minnesota while they waited for the completion of the US Bank Stadium. With Teddy Bridgewater at quarterback and Adrian Peterson returning at running back, the offense would score 23 points per game, helping the Vikings to a winning season. Head coach Mike Zimmer's defense would be the best unit on this team, allowing a paltry 19 points per game. Minnesota would be favored in 10 games, going 8-2 against the spread as a favorite. As an underdog, they would go 5-1, winning 4 of the games straight up. The Vikings would meet the Seahawks in the wild card round, and in a game played outdoors in Minnesota, the kickoff temperature would be -6 degrees. The Vikings would lose to Seattle 9-10, with field goal kicker Blair Walsh scoring all 9 points, but he would miss a 27-yard attempt as time expired. Following a 6-10 season in 1979, the 1980 Atlanta Falcons would post a straight-up record of 12-4, winning the team's first division championship. Atlanta would go 13-3 against the spread after having a lousy 7-8-1 record the previous year. They would win 5 games by 1 score, and 3 of their 4 losses were by 3 or fewer points. As underdogs in 8 games, the Falcons would post a perfect 8-0 record against the spread, going 6-2 straight up. As favorites in the other 8 games, they would go 5-3. A big part of the success of the 1980 Falcons was the improvement of quarterback Steve Bartkowski, who would pass for 3,544 yards, 31 touchdowns, leading the Falcons offense to 25 points per game, good for 5th in the league. Running back William Andrews and wide receiver Alfred Jenkins would have Pro Bowl seasons while setting career highs in stats. Atlanta's defense would also make great contributions by holding opponents to 17 points per game, also good for 5th in the league, and the Falcons would have a 133-point differential on the season. The Falcons' defense would have 26 interceptions and 21 fumble recoveries, adding 3 defensive touchdowns. The Falcons would face the Dallas Cowboys in the divisional round of the playoffs. In a hard-fought battle, they would lose 27-30, finishing the season with a 13-4 against the spread record. In an example of good teams win, great teams cover, the Detroit Lions of 2010 would finish the regular season with a 13-3 record against the spread while having a losing straight-up record of 6-10. Quarterback Matthew Stafford would be injured in the first game of the year, only playing 3 games all season. Sean Hill and Drew Stanton would both start at the quarterback position, leading the bookmakers to inflate the Lions' point spread. Detroit would be underdogs in 13 games, going 13-10 against the spread, but were only 3-10 straight up in those games. Detroit would only be favored in 3 games, all home games, but they would go a perfect 3-0. Star wide receiver Calvin Johnson would have a great statistical season with 1,120 yards and 12 touchdowns, helping the offense average 22 points per game. The defense would only surrender 23 points per game, keeping the Lions close enough to cover the number in most of these games. The Lions would have 7 one-score losses in 2010 and would also have a 4-game win streak to end the season after starting out 2-10 to top their season win total of 5.5 games. This would mark the Lions' 11th straight season without making the playoffs. The vision for the 90s Dallas Cowboys, led by new owner Jerry Jones and head coach Jimmy Johnson, began to take shape in the 1991 season. This would be the first winning season under this new regime and would end with an 11-5 straight-up record and a 13-3 record against the spread. The Cowboys would be favored in 8 games, going 7-1, and in the 8 games where they were underdogs, the Dallas Cowboys would go 6-2 with 4 straight-up wins. The Cowboys triplets would all have impactful seasons, with running back Emmitt Smith winning his first of 4 rushing titles with 1,563 yards and 13 touchdowns. Star wide receiver Michael Irvin would have a Pro Bowl season himself, with 93 receptions for 1,523 yards and 8 touchdowns. Quarterback Troy Aikman would have 2,754 yards passing with 11 touchdowns and would lead the team to a 7-5 record before injury would cause him to miss the final 4 games of the season. Backup quarterback Steve Berline would lead the Cowboys to 4 straight wins to end the year, helping Dallas make the playoffs as a wildcard team. The defense would also show improvements as they would allow just 19 points per game for the second straight year. Berline and the Cowboys would win their wildcard matchup against the Chicago Bears 17-13 as road underdogs. Dallas would lose the following week to the Detroit Lions 38-6, ending the season with a 14-4 record against the spread. The greatest underdog story in the history of the NFL, the 1999 St. Louis Rams, not only shocked the world by improving from 4-12 to 13-3, but they would also have a 13-3 against the spread record. The Rams' offense in 1999 was unstoppable, averaging 33 points per game, tops in the league. After losing free agent quarterback Trent Green to a leg injury during the preseason, an unknown backup quarterback named Kurt Warner would rise to the challenge. Warner would lead the greatest show on turf offense with 4,353 yards and 41 touchdowns, winning the league MVP. Star running back Marshall Faulk would also have an incredible season with 1,381 rushing yards, 1,048 receiving yards, and 12 touchdowns, winning the Offensive Player of the Year award. Wide receivers Isaac Bruce, Azahir Hakim, and Offensive Rookie of the Year Torrey Holt would all contribute to the record-setting offense with a combined 26 touchdowns. The Rams' defense was also a big part of their success, holding teams to a measly 15 points per game, leading the league in sacks and returning 7 interceptions for touchdowns. With a high-powered offense and a stifling defense, the sportsbooks couldn't set the lines high enough. St. Louis hit their 13-3 against the spread record with a plus 9-point win differential. St. Louis would be a pick'em in Game 1 and a 1.5-point underdog in Game 2, winning both of those games. After the second game, the Rams would be favored in the next 14 regular season games, putting up a 13-3 record against the spread. St. Louis would win the NFC West division after a decade-long playoff drought, securing home field throughout the playoffs. St. Louis would win a shootout against Randy Moss, Jeff George, and the Minnesota Vikings 49-37, the only game they would cover in the playoffs. The Rams would then go on to beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and their historic defense 11-6, moving on to play the Tennessee Titans in Super Bowl 34. St. Louis would complete the greatest turnaround in NFL history by winning the Super Bowl 23-16. Including the playoffs, the St. Louis Rams would end the year with a 14-4-1 against the spread record. If we included the postseason, the 1989 San Francisco 49ers had the greatest season against the spread in NFL history with an incredible 16-3 record. This team is considered one of the greatest of all time, with Hall of Fame players everywhere. After winning the Super Bowl in 1988, the 49ers would end the 89 regular season with a 14-2 straight-up record and a 13-3 record against the spread, easily winning the NFC West Division. With league MVP Joe Montana at quarterback, Jerry Rice, and Roger Craig, the 49ers offense would lead the league in scoring, averaging 28 points per game. The 49ers would be favored in 15 out of the 16 regular season games, going 12-3 against the spread. The only game where they were an underdog was by 1.5 points, and they would win the game outright. Not to be outdone, the 49ers defense would allow only 16 points per game, good for third in the league. This unit was led by free safety Ronnie Lott and linebacker Charles Haley, helping the 49ers to dominating wins throughout the season. In the 3 games played in the playoffs, the 49ers would outscore their opponents 126-26, a 33-point per game differential, including a 55-10 thumping of the Denver Broncos in Super Bowl 24. Again, the sports books couldn't make the lines big enough, as San Francisco covered the spread by an average of 8 points. In 2003, the New England Patriots would be an ATM for their backers, with an amazing 14-2 record ATS and straight up. The Patriots were 9-7 in 2002, but would miss the playoffs after winning the Super Bowl in 2001. The 03 season would be the third with Tom Brady as the starting quarterback, and would get off to a rocky start with a 31-0 loss to division rival Buffalo Bills. The Pats would start the season 2-2 before going on a 15-game winning streak. New England was led by their defense with an average of 14 points allowed per game during the regular season. The Patriots would win the AFC East title in home field advantage, where they were a perfect 8-0. During the season, New England would go 5-1 as underdogs, winning 4 games straight up. They would be 9-1 as favorites with an average margin of victory of 11 points. The Patriots would have victories over the Titans and the Colts in the playoffs, making it to Super Bowl 38, where they would face the Carolina Panthers. New England would win the Lombardi Trophy on a last-second field goal, defeating the Panthers 32-29. Bill Belichick's team would be favored in each playoff game, going 1-2 against the spread. The 2004 San Diego Chargers would have the greatest regular season against the spread in NFL history, ending the year at 13-1-2, 12-4 straight up. Led by head coach Marty Schottenheimer, San Diego would have quite the turnaround from 2003, where the team finished 4-12 straight up and 6-10 against the spread. The Chargers would get quarterback Phillip Rivers in the 2004 draft, putting pressure on then quarterback Drew Brees to perform. With the help of running back LaDainian Tomlinson and tight end Antonio Gates, the Chargers offense would average 28 points per game, third in the league. Brees would throw for 27 touchdowns to only 7 interceptions and pass for 3,159 yards on the season. The Chargers would win their first AFC West Division title since 1994 and break a 9-year playoff drought. The Chargers would have an 8-game win streak during the season and would lose all 4 games by a combined 20 points. The Chargers would be underdogs in 10 games that season, covering the spread 8 times, including 6 straight-up wins. They would be 5-1 as favorites, winning by an average of 15 points. San Diego would face the New York Jets in the wildcard round as 6.5-point favorites. Rookie field goal kicker Nate Kading would miss 3 kicks in the game, helping the 5th seed Jets get the victory 17-20 in overtime. Well, there you have it, the 8 greatest regular seasons against the spread in NFL history. So which team surprised you? And which team do you think will have the best against the spread record in 2023? Leave your answers in the comments below, and be sure to hit that like and subscribe button, as it really helps out the channel. Well, big thank you to everybody for watching, and good luck with all your future bets.